question is, find the marginal revenue function. When you see a question like that, the first thing that you should think about is, what is the meaning of marginal? We already established what was the revenue function. Now the only new term we have is marginal. So think about it this way. What is marginal? Okay, if you went back to your previous lessons, you would have remembered that marginal is the cost or the revenue from producing or selling one more item after a certain number of items has been sold or produced. And so the marginal revenue function is basically the rate of change of the revenue function. And that is something that we have established during the lesson. And so the question is basically finding R prime of Q. And now we go back to the expression of R of Q, and all you have to do is to derive this expression. But before you do that, think about it this way. What kind of a rule do I need to use to derive this function? Of course, this is a quotient, and therefore the quotient rule applies over here. And so R prime of Q is going to be the derivative of the 1000 Q over 5 plus Q. And I want to derive all of this quantity using the quotient rule, which states that this is the derivative of the numerator multiplied by the denominator minus the derivative of the denominator multiplied by the numerator over the denominator squared. If this is too difficult for us to follow up, then we can write this in the form of, if y is equal u over v, then y prime is u prime times v minus v prime times u divided by v squared. And so R prime is going to be the derivative of 1000 Q, which is, yes, 1000, multiplied by the denominator, 5 plus Q, minus the derivative of the denominator, the derivative of 5 plus Q, which is 1, multiplied by the numerator, 1000 Q, and then divided by 5 plus Q, all of it squared. A little bit of algebraic manipulation. 5000 plus 1000 Q minus 1000 Q over 5 plus Q squared is going to give me 5000 over 5 plus Q, all of it squared. I want you to pause for a second and think about the following question. We just found the marginal revenue function R prime of Q. It turns out to be this expression, 5000 over 5 plus Q squared. Can you tell from this expression, R prime of Q, how does the revenue function change as Q changes? Pause, think, and come back in a few seconds. Okay, now that you're back, think about it this way. I have 5000 here, which is a positive number. 5 plus Q squared, I claim that this is also a positive number. Can you tell why? Well, it's a number raised to the power 2, so the only possibility for it to be not positive is if it is equal to 0. Because a number raised to the power 2, a real number raised to the power 2, can never be a negative number. So 5 plus Q is either positive or 0. Why is it not equal to 0? Well, it's basically, for it to be equal to 0, Q has got to be a negative number, negative 5. And Q is the quantity produced, the number of units produced. And that cannot be a negative number, of course. And so if all of this is positive, positive divided by positive, this means that the rate of change of the revenue function is positive, And that means that the revenue function is constantly increasing, always increasing. And that makes sense because the more as Q increases, R is going to increase. The more items you sell, the more the revenue increases.